Welcome to your reset with Christiane Piano, where the purpose is to support you in releasing all that you are not, so the truth of who you really are can emerge. This is accomplished through working with the body-mind from an ontological perspective. We use various modalities to support you in supporting yourself exactly where you are, so that you may return to an experience of wholeness and ease, moment by moment. Deep reflection is one of the greatest tools through which to do this. To take a moment, to pause, assess, reflect, and literally and figuratively reset, come back to center, and move back into your one and precious life with increased clarity and purpose. Hello, I'm Christiane Piano, and thank you for tuning in today to your Reset Reflections. It's great to be here with you again. This week, we are diving into a state that is deeply impacting our capacity for living with ease and inherent wholeness: hypervigilance. Let's start by looking at your internal landscape. What are you experiencing in your body at this moment? Perhaps write it down or take a mental note. Just scan. And just notice, become aware. What are you experiencing in your body at this very moment? I ask this because regardless of our age or circumstance, we all face external pressure. It's not the pressure that defines us, it's the way we carry the weight. And how the weight shapes your relationship to change, it shows up differently for everyone. Let's take a moment to look at the weight of major life challenges. I'll name a few now, and if they don't apply to you, please feel free to choose one that's relevant to your life. Divorce, aging, the fear of menopause, unresolved relationship dynamics, rising costs of living, job instability, health crises, and the stress of caregiving. The intense constant pressure of academic performance, career uncertainty, defining identity, social media validation, or feeling isolated despite constant digital connection. No matter the specific challenge you're navigating, the underlying consequence is the same. Your system goes on high alert. Whether the fear is present or anticipated, our nervous systems are working overtime, kicking off an internal on-guard operating system. This chronic state of alertness, what is known as hypervigilance, is a learned survival modality. It is a mechanism of fear designed to keep you safe by staying on constant alert. The root of this challenge lies in a common misperceived separation. Most people think of themselves as a personality with a body, as if these two aspects were fundamentally separate. This assumption leads to fragmentation. The truth is, we are a single, cohesive unit, a body-mind. Hypervigilance is the physical and mental state born of this division. It is the opposite of the internal flow and sense of wholeness that comes when the mind and body are working together, when we experience them as a whole. This internal resistance to our own reality creates what I call the knot, which can be either spelt as K-N-O-T, the knot in the body, or N-O-T, the knot in the mind. And this knot is the foundational stuckness that holds our chronic tension. In the mind, the knot is experienced as a problem or an issue that shouldn't be. In the body, it's felt as chronic tightness and bracing. The problem is that when this defensive system runs on autopilot, it becomes an exhausting and unsustainable way to live, forcing us into a cycle of defense that strips us of the clarity and agency we need to live fully. This constant state of inner bracing is what leads directly to a profound loss in the quality of your life. The crucial cost here is the loss of your presence in the moment and your power to choose. When your mind is constantly scanning for the next threat in the background, you are forfeiting the present moment. Ask yourself, when things are actually good, are you always waiting for the next shoe to drop? You are trading that felt reality of your body-mind, the source of your deepest wisdom, for the story of an anticipated future crisis. The result isn't just exhaustion. It's a feeling of being perpetually drained, fragmented, and stuck in the mode of surviving rather than truly living. Today, we'll look at what this state of chronic alertness is, how it's showing up as your personal normal, and most importantly, how the embodied practice of grounding can support you in releasing this accumulated tension. The work is about cultivating a grounded awareness that allows you to consciously turn off the internal on-guard operating system so you can move from surviving your circumstances to fully living amongst them. As we move into this reflection, a valuable starting point is establishing a foundational awareness about what feeds this defensive system. It's not simply fear that feeds hypervigilance. Fear is a natural emotion. What feeds the chronic state of alertness is the body-mind's resistance to, or clinging to, that fear. This internal tension is what turns the passing energy of fear into the chronic, stuck state of the knot. I invite you to pause for a moment and consider, how is the resistance to fear or the clinging to its story showing up for you right now? Where do you feel its echo in your thoughts, in your breath, in your physical sensations, or in your overall tension? Now let's explore what happens when that resistance runs on autopilot. In part 1, we're looking at how that learned alertness, that state of being on guard, stops feeling like a defense and starts feeling like your personal baseline, your new normal. We'll identify the 2 distinct ways that chronic tension shows up for you. When we are in a state of chronic anxiety, the condition of hypervigilance can become your new normal. And I invite you to see that it's not an accident or a failure. It's simply a learned, automatic survival mechanism for your mind. Your mind, based on past stress or trauma, believes it needs to stay on high alert to keep you safe. This habit becomes so ingrained that it starts to feel like the baseline level of how you simply interact with the world, even long after the direct danger has passed. The body's protective bracing is the echo of the mind's chronic resistance to the feeling of fear. In the language of body-mind well-being, hypervigilance is the physiological state and ultimate expression of the knot, that fundamental stuckness where the mind and body are locked in a perpetual state of defense. This knot often shows up as chronic, uncomfortable, and even painful holding patterns in your body, perhaps in your neck, lower back, or even in your internal organs. It is the opposite of flow. Your nervous system is constantly on guard, scanning your environment for threats. This heightened state of sensory sensitivity, often likened to a dysregulated nervous system, causes an inappropriate and exaggerated response to a situation. To recognize this in your own life, it helps to identify how this chronic alertness manifests for you. Hypervigilance, this chronic state of defense, doesn't always look like frantic worry. It expresses itself in two primary opposing ways that correspond to the main branches of your survival nervous system. We can call these resistance and resignation. Resistance, we'll start there. The body's fight. This is the active, high-energy defense managed by your sympathetic nervous system. This is the state of chronic mobilization, the continuous, exhausting effort to not let down your guard, to not fail, and to not let the situation overwhelm you. When you are in resistance, the knot shows up as bracing against reality. You feel restless, irritable, perpetually on, controlling, or constantly busy. Think of it as always having your foot on the accelerator. You are fighting the present moment, believing that if you push harder, faster, or longer, you can finally find safety. Resignation, the body's collapse. This is the low energy state of resignation. It can also be associated to the dorsal vagal shutdown. It is the giving up when defense fails. Collapse is felt as a sudden draining of energy, emotional numbness, brain fog, or heaviness in the limbs. In the thoughts, it shows up as, why bother? I already know how it's going to work out this time. This is the system hitting the brakes and putting the car in park. You're still in the threat zone, but you've shut down the engine. The core feeling here is helplessness, where the system drops out of time, convinced survival is only possible through shutdown. It is crucial to understand that both the frantic pushing of resistance and the heavy, numb feeling of resignation are two sides of the same hypervigilant coin. They are both exhausting, unsustainable ways of living outside of the present moment. They both strip you of your capacity for flow and agency. The problem is that this hyper-alertness, which was once a vital survival skill, now runs up a severe energy debt. It is utterly unsustainable. It burns up energy you could be using for growth, creativity, or even connection. Your brain is racing ahead of the facts, constantly triggering a survival response. Let's look at this internal drain and how it could possibly present itself in your life. The overdrive of resistance. Your system is stuck in fight or flight, causing the racing brain and the constant need to push, control, or solve. The consequence of this chronic high tone isn't always a simple crash. The exhaustion may compel you toward external ways of discharging that energy, such as compulsive scrolling, binge watching, emotional eating, over-exercising, or excessive consumption of alcohol or caffeine. Your body is demanding an outlet because the internal threat scanning radar has been cranked up to a volume you can no longer ignore. The shutdown of resignation is when your system is overwhelmed and defaults to a freeze or collapse state. This energy debt manifests not as frantic activity, but as apathy, brain fog, emotional numbness, or an inability to mobilize energy. This is a profound biological withdrawal of resources, leaving you perpetually fragmented and simply unable to access the energy for growth. Now, how does this energy drain actually feel in your day-to-day? The way hypervigilance presents is highly individual. It's unique to your own history and nervous system. We don't need to try and fit a label. Instead, we can offer these patterns as mirrors for your own awareness. Let's look at a few examples of the subtle way this hypervigilance shows up in your day-to-day life, draining your energy. As you hear these, perhaps gently check if the energy of the example resonates with your own life, even if the specific scenario does not fit. Boundary watch. If your past included inconsistent people, you might be wary of kind people now, always searching for the inevitable sign that they'll turn. This is the search for safety. Perfection trap. If you were frequently criticized or punished for small mistakes, you'll constantly search your own behavior for signs that you are less than perfect, leading to rumination, the mental loop that goes nowhere. Validation hunt. If you've been emotionally neglected, you might search for signs that you're boring someone or that they're itching to get away from you, leading to boundary failure. But what if your experience of the knot is different? Perhaps your body's survival mechanism shows up as a persistent tightness in your hips, a chronic dry throat, or a pattern of isolation that you can't quite name. If none of these specific examples fully resonate, I invite you to simply name your hypervigilance as your personal brand of stuckness. Just labeling it as stuck begins the process of awareness. Seen this way, hypervigilance is a normal reaction to an abnormal, highly traumatic situation. But it does not go away on its own. It becomes the disembodied state where you are physically present, but your mind is consumed by the past, what went wrong, and the future, what could go wrong. This brings us to the profound difference between being aware and being grounded. Awareness is noticing the alarm. Grounding is the internal resource that allows you to respond without reacting. This capacity for response, rather than reaction, is what we will explore next. Now, how exactly do we cultivate that capacity for response? That's the key question. We need a foundation. So let's dive into part 2, where we talk about why grounding isn't just a relaxation technique. It's the absolute essential daily practice for shifting you from chronic tension to true agency. When we talk about shifting out of this constant state of alert, we must address the root, our foundation. Hypervigilance is the physiological state of being ungrounded. Even if you feel relatively calm right now, the habit of vigilance often leaves subtle tension behind. This is the ingrained physical echo of the mind's past fear. Let's check for these subtle habits now. Where does your body habitually hold a state of being on guard? The ungrounded state often shows up in immediate, observable physical cues. Notice the subtle tension around your eyes, perhaps, which may be constantly scanning or fixed in a wary gaze even when relaxed. Or perhaps feel the slight lift of your shoulders. This is a physical habit of readiness to defend, even while sitting. You may even observe the fixed, almost tense expression on your face. This is a mask of alertness you carry even when you don't feel a direct threat. If these examples don't quite fit your experience, I invite you to name your own unique sign of alertness. Perhaps it's a tightness in your breath, a clench in your fists, or a pressure behind your forehead. The principle is the same. Where tension resides, life is not flowing. When you carry this kind of persistent tension, it can diminish your natural stability. This is when you might notice yourself losing your center, perhaps getting swept off your feet by emotion, or defaulting to intellectualizing your experience when real stress hits. When the body-mind is overwhelmed, our physical state defaults to one of the three primary expressions. You can use these terms to give precise language to the knot in your body. The first is contraction, the feeling of fear. This is the physical and emotional experience of resistance. It is the bracing against the threat. Contraction is often felt as tightness in the chest, a knot in the stomach, muscle tension in the jaw or neck, or a feeling of coldness and shrinking. The underlying emotion is usually fear or anxiety, actively preparing the system for fight or flight. Then there's collapse, the feeling of helplessness. This is the low energy state. It is the giving up when defense fails. Collapse is felt as a sudden draining of energy, emotional numbness, brain fog, or heaviness in the limbs. The core feeling here is helplessness, where the system drops out of time, convinced survival is only possible through shutdown. Then there's activation, the energy of movement. This describes the high energy state that isn't just fear, but the mobilized energy of the sympathetic nervous system that is ready to act. You may feel this as a quickening, a racing heart, heat, rapid thoughts, or an intense focused energy. When this energy is blocked or unexpressed, it often manifests as a high-level emotion like excitement, irritability, or anger. This activation of the body's raw fuel demanding agency, even if that energy leads to the destructive behaviors of resistance, like overexercising or compulsive working. When our system is navigating these three powerful expressions, contraction, collapse, or activation, it is a sign that our foundation is compromised. The core challenge is this: without a strong-rooted foundation, little can be accomplished. The challenge isn't the problem itself. It's the lack of stability to hold and process these powerful experiences of contraction, collapse, and activation. This is why cultivating a rooted foundation is so essential. Grounding is a necessary daily practice. It is the simple conscious action of restoring stability to a nervous system that has been working over time. It is the antidote to the instability of contraction, collapse, and activation. It is our way of establishing coherence between our inner world and the reality of the present moment. The truth is, clarity is the compass that guides us in navigating our experience from a place of agency rather than reactivity. But you cannot find clarity when your energy is scattered, cycling through the mental loops of what if and if only, or stuck in the physical patterns of bracing or shutting down. We must understand that our body-mind is where our agency resides. The function of grounding is to reconnect your attention to that resource. By engaging in grounding, you send a clear, nonverbal signal to your nervous system. You are safe. This safe signal allows the held energy of resistance to soften and the numbed energy of resignation to safely remobilize. Your choices will begin to shift organically because of a deep and effortless shift in your internal context. This is the essence of function, maintain structure. The practices we engage in are the function that maintains the structure of your internal calm. To find your ground, you must move beyond the mental script of fixing, the hypervigilance. Instead, we use the physical body to signal to the nervous system that it is safe to receive and safe to process. How do we put this into practice? We begin by intentionally interrupting the alarm system in the moment. Okay, so we've established why this rooted foundation is so necessary, but when the alarm goes off, when you feel that bracing or collapsing, you need something you can do right now. Let's get practical. In part 3, we're focusing on your simplest, most powerful tool to interrupt that survival loop, the practice of the pause and the embodied statement. To interrupt the automatic survival loop, we move from the mental swirl to the embodiment state, that felt sense of what is simply unfolding right now. When you feel that familiar spike of anxiety, that urge to scan the room, or that compulsion to check your work again, that is the moment of choice. This is where we apply the practice of the pause and become the Olympian feeler of our experience. By the way, if you haven't heard the full episode on the Olympian feeler, I highly recommend pausing and putting that on your list. To be an Olympian feeler simply means we are committed to feeling the physical reality of our emotion without immediately reacting to the story of the fear. Instead of fighting the feeling, we simply notice the body's stance by checking in with the energy your system is using. Think of the energy your system is using. Is it one of bracing, muscular tension, a kind of internal preparation for battle? Is it one of recession, a felt sense of draining energy, a quiet withdrawal? Or is it a one of quickening, a racing heart, rapid thoughts, energy looking for a target? These are felt energetic statements that we can now work with directly. We've established that the power to shift out of hypervigilance lies in grounding, which signals safety to the nervous system. The actual work begins when we commit to small, consistent acts of re-regulation. The power of your feet, the instant reroute. When you feel yourself getting swept off your feet by the mind story, lost in thought, or cycling into contraction or activation, your center is lost. The fastest way back to center is through your physical connection to the supportive structure beneath you. I invite you to pause and ask yourself, what happens when I put my feet back down on the floor and press my weight into them? This small, conscious act provides immediate sensory input, a nonverbal statement to your nervous system that says, I am supported, I am here, I am safe. You are shifting from the energetic chaos of floating anxiety to a state of greater stability and containment. This simple contact with the ground is your first, most available resource for becoming the Olympian feeler of your experience. Secondly, the cultivation of consistency, anchoring the body-mind. Hypervigilance thrives on consistency and chaos because those states confirm the danger. Grounding thrives on consistency and predictability. To counteract the constant alarm of the ungrounded state, choose one small, consistent action to anchor your week. This consistency tells your system, day after day, that it does not need to brace. This is where we actively apply the practice of the pause. Interrupting resistance. If you feel the intense energy of activation, demanding action, the urge to compulsively scroll, check work, or send a stressed email, give yourself a mandatory 5-second pause before you act. Use that moment to put your feet on the ground and feel your breath. Then there's interrupting resignation. If you feel the heavy state of collapse, the urge to numb out or withdraw, consciously choose one piece of whole, nourishing food at one meal a day. This act of conscious consumption is a small, intentional choice that signals a return to agency of your body-mind. Establishing baseline. Commit to 5 minutes just once a day to simply sit, feel your feet on the ground, and notice the rhythm of your breath. This small, consistent ritual resets your baseline towards stability. The shift we are making is one of relationship, not elimination. You're not broken. You simply have a protective habit from the past experiences that taught your body-mind to fear. It is human to experience fear, but your path is simply one of consistently choosing to shift your relationship to that feeling by listening to the wisdom already within you. The key takeaway is that the knot of hypervigilance, whether it shows up as the pushing of resistance or the numbness of resignation, is not a permanent state. It is a physiological habit that can be gently unwound by building safety. The practice is the path. Every time you choose to press your feet into the floor, to notice your body's bracing, or to pause before you react, you are creating a context of safety that teaches your nervous system that you can receive the energy of fear without it defaulting into resistance or resignation. I encourage you to carry these words from Buddha with you this week. You can only lose what you cling to. Stop clinging to the need to control the outcome and simply choose to return to the stability of the earth beneath you, allowing fear to pass through rather than take hold. If today's discussion resonated and you are ready to explore the specific roots of your own hypervigilance and complex patterns through deep embodied work, I invite you to explore my one-to-one BodyMind maturation work. You can find all the details and sign-up links in today's show notes. Thank you for taking this time out of your busy life to engage in the practice of reflection and growth today. I recognize and appreciate the courage it takes to look inward. I look forward to connecting with you again next week on your Reset Reflections. If you are interested in working with me on any level of body-mind well-being, whether it be through individual body-mind maturation work sessions, perhaps participating in a series, individual privates, or through my video on-demand services, if you have questions, if you would like to engage on any level, feel free to schedule a free 15-minute consult in the appointments section, www.christianepiano.com, or email me directly at growth@christianepiano.com.